Good afternoon. Okay, today we are discussing the conservation of biodiversity and biotechnology. What are the main basic concept of the conservation of biodiversity and biotechnology? Conservation is the main objectives of to maintain essential ecological process and life support of system, to preserve biological diversity, to ensure that my utilization of the species and ecosystem sustainable. The what are basic concept of the conservation of the biodiversity mean some of the human beings just one of the estimated 10 million of species the planet currently estimated using the diversity 40% net portion reproduction of land FAO. There are the three classes of the reason of the concern: ethical and the aesthetic, economic. Loss of biodiversity. Already yesterday we discussed the loss of biodiversity, over exploration, urbanization, doom cultivation, different types of the doom cultivation. What are the action plan for the conservation? Mainly, the conservation of the biodiversity immediate task will be devise, enforces, time bound of the programs for saving of the plant and animal species. The action plan conservation must be directed to the inventorization of biological resources, conservation of biodiversity through a network of protected areas, rehabilitation of rural poors, tribal display due to the concern of protected areas, conservation of the microorganism, different types of the microorganism, conservation of the microorganism. Next one, protection and the sustainable use of the genetic resources in the germplasm, control of over exploitation, protection of domesticated plant and animals. Mainly nowadays, most of the peoples are the domesticated animals. For example, different types of the poultry farms. And next one, the plants, especially vegetable plants, also they can protect the domesticated plants and animal species. Maintenance of the corridors between the different nature resources, support for protecting traditional skills, multiplication and breeding of the threatened species through the modern technology, discouragement of monoculture introduction, restriction on introduction of the exotic species. Already yesterday, exotic species mainly they're the introducing of the new places, one place to another places, exotic species also. These are the all are the action plan for the conservation of the biodiversity. On the conservation of the biodiversity, all human activities and developmental process are closely associated with the biological diversity. Its prevention and the well management basic concern in the modern times. There are the urgent need educate the reorient our activities such as the development, harmonious in the life forms and sustainability. Conservation of the biodiversity. Some of the steps are following the practice of the biodiversity. Biodiversity inventories. Okay, active. What are the biodiversity inventories? Is the main some of the lines is especially these are the related to the research level, improving methodologies, distribution patterns, status information. These are the main. These are the lines are the they can use for the research lines. Next one is the assessment on biodiversity conservation closely associated with the current status, abundances, distribution of genetic resources, management direction, the species population, biological communities, ecological system. These are all are the biodiversity conservation closely associated with the assessment of the this concept. Activities activities for the better inventories. Rapid assessment program provide the snapshot of richness of the species in the area. For example, richness of the species is related to the hotspots. Survey to map out of the distribution of the Earth ecosystem. Survey GIS JS and remote sensing also they can use for the assessment of the biodiversity. Broad-based inventory efforts focused on the poorly known habitats, degrade and multiple uses habitats. Intensive inventories of the determine all the species present from the microbes and the vertebrates on certain the selected sites. For example, in Andaman Nicobar and next one Western Ghats are the most of uh, the highly richness of the plant species, and at the same time animal species also available in the in Andaman Nicobar and Western Ghats. Okay, these are the intensive activities, the evolution and assessment of the biological diversity. Next one, at the same time, the significant improvement of the enumeration, the biological species, their stability, the further provide to estimation and resource of the specific geographical areas. For example, in Kadapa, Chitturu, Sheshachala hills, especially they can grow in the Pterocarpus santlinum, red sandalwoods. These are the specific areas. Okay, the specific geological areas in the estimation of the specific geological areas. Next one, spatial display of the biodiversity units, the maximum utilization and the proper application of the biotechnology like the geographic information system GIS obtain the existing information to estimate the baseline information and monitoring the biodiversity diversity changes to eliminate the redundant data, develop common terminology and the promote data sharing. Modeling techniques also accounting procedures and inventories provide to data biodiversity. Data integration and manipulation sharing for the optimum utilization of the information. Okay, the biodiversity. Already we discussed the levels of the biodiversity, types of the biodiversity. The levels are the types of the biodiversity, species biodiversity. Next one is the genetic biodiversity, ecosystem biodiversity. The species, especially within the species. And next one, genetic biodiversity within the gene level. The ecosystem biodiversity in the particular area, in the particular geographical area diversity. What are the community and ecosystem diversity? Ecosystem diversity refers to diversity of the place of level of ecosystem. These are the three perspectives. Already we discussed the alpha biodiversity, beta biodiversity, and next one is the gamma biodiversity. Okay, alpha biodiversity mainly are the refers to organisms sharing the same community habitat level, same community. The beta biodiversity is the community diversity refers to the diversity organism sharing the two habitats within the community and between the community. And nation gamma biodiversity is the total landscape geographical areas are called gamma biodiversity. Actually, these are the species biodiversity. Also, they can describe that is alpha, beta, gamma biodiversity, and beta biodiversity also they can be the alpha, beta, gamma biodiversity within the genus, within the species, within the communities. Okay, within the species, within the communities, and within the geographical areas. These are the discuss. Already we discussed the species biodiversity and genetic biodiversity. Values of the biodiversity. What are the values of the biodiversity? Main already we discussed in previous classes. Food, food habitats. About the 80,000 plants and about the 90% of the present day food crops have been the domesticated from the wildlife. Most of the rice is the cereals, major cereals also wheat and rice. These are also the food purpose. These are related to the biodiversity food. And next one is the drugs in the medicine. Already we discussed that 75% of the world population depend on the plants and animal extracts. For example, Cinnamon geylanicum, Cinchona officinalis. Okay, next one is the quinine, reserpine, morphine. These are the all different types of the alkaloids. Also, they can derive from the plant species. So quinine is especially these are the anti-malarial drugs. Digoxin, these are the especially hot drugs. So different types of the morphine. Morphine also they can stimulate the CNS. Ephedrine also they can stimulate the CNS. Okay, these are different types of the drugs. Most of the drugs and the fuel also. The forest have been the used in since the fuel wood and the fuel fossil fuels also produce the biodiversity. What is the meaning of the fossil? Fossil means especially then so many years. For example, in the long back, the plants and the animal species are they can preserve in the sedimentary rocks. In the fossilization process, they can form the fuels, fossil fuels. The social value mainly is the tulasi and the lotus. Next one is the neem plants also they can use for the social value. Okay. Hotspots and the biodiversity already we discussed the 36 hotspots in India. Sorry, throughout the world. The four hotspots also they can see into the in India, Western Ghats, Himalayas, Sundarland, and next one is the Indo-Burma region, especially islands. Sundarland, the islands, these are the hotspots in throughout the world. What is the meaning of the hotspots? Hotspots mean especially richness of the hotspots mean especially richness of the species, or richness of the plants and the flora and the fauna. Okay, biodiversity. These are the previous data. Actually, 36 hotspots there according to 2023 data. 36. Okay. What are the criteria for the determining the hotspots? Already we discussed. No number of endemic species. The species which are the found on where else. Degree of threat and the which is the measured terms of the habitat. In addition of the covers the several share of the Iceland, including the main and the Icelands, the South China Sea and the Andaman Nicobar Islands and Indian, especially the Brazil especially Niagara and the richest forest also they can see in the Brazil. The richest, the biodiversity hotspots also located in the Brazil area, Brazil. Okay, next one, the Western Ghats and the Sri Lanka also is also Sudbury Hills. The entire extent the hotspots also was the originally about the 25 sorry 1 lakh 80 to 50,000 square meters for threats. Well, what are the threats and what are the threats of the biodiversity? Already extinction, then extinction. Extinction. Next one is the some of the main cause habitat is the agriculture activities, mining, development of the women settlement, and next one is the nowadays some of the peoples are they can use for the zoom cultivation, especially deforestation. These are the hotspots in deforestation, one of the major cause of the threatened of the biodiversity. Threats of the biodiversity. And next one, poaching of the wildlife. These are the one of the demerit of the loss of the biodiversity. The man wildlife has the conflicts. Next one, endangered species, especially these are the growing in the particular area. For example, some of the cycas species also they can grow in the particular area. In the Odisha also, Navarangapur district also they can grow in the particular species. Some of the endangered species. The next one is the conservation of the biodiversity. Conserving of the biodiversity in the protected habitats, protecting animals and the plant life sanctuaries, gardens, biosphere, reservoirs, zoological parks. These are all are the ex situ in situ conservation. In chance, the conservation of the biodiversity, biological diversity is the biological diversity held June 1992 in the status of the needs of the conservation of biodiversity, the sustainable development, preparation of the human beings on the earth. These are the Earth Summit. Rio de Janeiro has Earth Summit. The conservation means the management of the human use of the biosphere so that the may yields the greatest sustainable benefit present generation while the maintain the gates in the potential to meet up the needs and aspiration of the future generation. Especially these are the preserved in the future generations. Conservation means conservative of the most of some of the peoples, especially gene banks. Nowadays they can use for the gene banks. Next one is the some of the, for example, some of the wildlife plants also they can preserve in the germplasm. Okay, these are the two basic approaches to the wildlife conservation in protected areas. In situ, and next one ex situ conservation. In situ and the ex situ conservation. What are the in situ what are the main? These are the main concept of the conservation of the biodiversity in gene banks and seed banks, restoration of the biodiversity, importing the environmental education, enacting the strengthening of the enforcing the environmental legislation, population control, and reviewing of the agriculture practices, controlling of the urbanization. These are the main concept of the conservation of the biodiversity. These are the two types of the conservation of the biodiversity. One is the in situ conservation, another one is the ex situ conservation. What is the meaning of the in situ conservation? In situ conservation means within the natural habitat, they can preserve, they can conserve the within the natural habitats. Okay, in situ conservation. Ex situ conservation is the outside. Mainly they can preserve the conservation properties outside. For example, gene banks. Next one is the botanical gardens also, the outside. Outside. In situ conservation mainly within the habitat, they can preserve the within the habitats. The best example of the in situ conservation is sanctuaries, natural reservoirs, natural mountains, cultural landscape, bioreservoirs. The sanctuaries also 543 according to 2023 data is the 543. And next one is the And the biosphere also 18 biospheres. In situ methods are the maintain the plants and animal their original habitats are used in the are where the biological resource being duplicated meet needs of the local population. This is the means in situ conservation means simply means conservation of the species in natural ecosystem or even the man-made ecosystems. Okay, the strategy emphasis protection of the total ecosystem through the network of protected areas. Protected areas, an area is the land and or the sea specially dedicated to the protection and the maintenance of the biological diversity maintained through the legal effective of the name. There are the different categories of the protected areas are the man-made with the different objectives. These include the biosphere reservoirs, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. At the present, I have the 18 major biospheres also in actually sanctuaries also 543, national parks also approximately 80 national parks, 40 wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, Jim Corbett is the national park. Is are the located in the established of the uh, Jim Corbett is the Uttaranchal. Okay, uh, what is the difference between the biospheres and the national park, wildlife sanctuaries? Biospheres also reserve in India, for example, Nilagiri biosphere, Nanda Devi biosphere. 18 biospheres is there. The first one is the Nilagiri biosphere. Approximately these are the these are the institute conservation. National Park, Kaziranga National Park, Assam, Gir National Park, Gujarat, the Periyar National Parks, the Kerala, Sri Lanka, the Sarika National Park, Rajasthan. Some of the wildlife sanctuaries also, Ghana bird sanctuaries, especially Ajare sanctuaries and Adro wildlife sanctuaries. These are the sanctuaries. Sorry, national park according to 2022 data, 105 national parks. The broad category, the institute conservation also, IUCN, according to IUCN, have the developed the following some of the definition protected areas and area land, especially dedicate the protection of the maintenance biological diversity and natural and the associated cultural resources and managed through the legal other effective means. IUCN through the Commission National and the protected areas identify the six broad categories of the protected areas. One is the strict native reserve and the wilderness areas, sanctuaries. The category 2 is the under comes the national parks, 105 according to 2022 data. Category 3, natural in the mountain, natural landmark. Category 4, habit and the species of management areas. Category 5, the category 5 is the protected landscape snaps. Category 6, managed resources protected areas. Executive conservation. Main executive conservation, what are the advantages? It is the most suitable for the long-term conservation. Executive storage in the facilities can store the more diversity and quantity accession of the seeds. Evolution of the easier than the in-situ conservation. Ex-situ offers the availability breeders than do the in the in-situ conservation. Mainly, two difficulties of the ex-situ conservation, major difficulties, lack of regeneration, and next one is the chaos of duplication. Both are the ex-situ conservations. Next one is the role of biotechnology in biodiversity. What are the roles of the in biotechnology in biodiversity? The biotechnology is the use, use of the living and system and the organism develop or make the useful products or any biotechnological application. Biological system, living organisms, and derivatives. There is a make up the modified products of the process of the specific use according to United Nations Conservation of the Biological Diversity. Modern biotechnology in the begin with the first recombinant DNA experiment, but the real application stand for the 1980s. According to USC Supreme Court held the genetically engineered microorganism patentable in the biotechnological component. Biodiversity means the variety of the different types of the life and the living and non-living forms. Earth, mainly biodiversity is the variety of different types of the life found in the earth and the variation within the species, variation in the species, variation especially. The variability among the living organism from all the sources of including their terrestrial, marine, and next one the inter-aquatic ecosystem, ecological complex, is they may are the part of this includes diversity within the species, between the species in the ecological system. What are the role of the biotechnology in biodiversity conservation? Molecular marker technology, abundant markers, plant DNA bank, unconventional the biotechnological methods, organogenesis, molecular farming, ex situ conservation. Mainly, by major strategy and biodiversity conservation is the in situ. These are the established protected areas network appropriate management practice carried out to link fragments, restore, degrade the habitats within the outside of the protected areas. Ex situ conservation establish the botanical and zoological gardens conservation stands bank of the germplasm, pollen, seedlings, tissue culture, gene and DNA, etc. Next one, what are the reduction in the biotic pressure, reduce the anthropogenic pressure and threatened species, launch natural population by the cultivating them elsewhere. Rehabilitation, identify the rehabilitatory attendant threatened species, launching the argumentation, reintroducing of the reintroduction of the programs, biodiversity and bioproductivity. Developing countries have given the all agree biodiversity to the world, but these are the have areas of the low productivity and the high population diversity. This belt also has been the traditional hunger belt. The industrial countries, by making use of the science, genetics, and the breeding, raised the productivity. These are the biodiversity and the biotechnology. In the last 25 years, there have been the revolution in the field of biotechnology, green revolution, and next one is the new discoveries of the inventions were emerged in the area, isolation, the manipulation of the genes, a better understanding the biological molecules, and the advance of the recombinant DNA techniques also. Efforts in the were made of the creative transgenic crops, especially nowadays most of the peoples are taking for the transgenic animals and the transgenic plants, mainly transgenic plants also. Transgenic plants, the BT brinjal and the BT cotton, the transgenic plants and transgenic animals also, sheep and the goats, different types of the main important is the high productivity. They can produce the high productivity. These are the related to the biodiversity and biotechnology. Molecular marker theory, biochemical theory, the phytochemical theory, DNA marker, plant DNA banks, unconventional biotechnological method is the micropropagation. What is the meaning of the micropropagation? Micropropagation means large amount of the plant products are the micro. Are the approach conservation of the plant species and the preserve the commercially important crops. Production of the virus-free plants, micropropagation. They can in situ conservation, organogenesis. Organ synthesis such as the buds, roots, shoots from the cultured tissues, organogenesis. Molecular farming, the production of the pharmaceuticals by the molecular farming. And ex situ conservation, ex situ is the conversion method of the biodiversity and wildlife protection, seldom sufficient process. Concept of the protected areas, national parks, wildlife reserve park, hunting reservoirs. Next topic is the environmental protection and loss of the Indian scenario. Extraction, environmental protection. Environmental related provisions of the Indian Constitution. Environmental protection mentioned in the Indian Constitution, part of the directive principle, the state of the policy and the fundamental duties. Directive principle state policy, Article 48A. Okay, Article 48A. History of the environment laws in India. It did develop framework. Environmental protection came after the UN Conference of the Human Environment in Stockholm in 1972. This led to the Formation of the Nation Council of Environment Policy and Planning 1972 within the Science and Technology and Department. This council was later converted to the Ministry of Environment and the Forestry. Environment laws in India. The Wildlife Protection Act 1972. The act provides the protection of the wild animals, birds, and plants, and for the matters concerned to the there is analytically identical at the extent of the whole India. It is the including the 6 schedules. The water and prevention and the control of the pollution in 1974. What are the main objective of the Water and Water Act? Prevention and the control of the pollution 1974. To provide the prevention and control of the water pollution, maintaining or the restoring of the wholenesses and the purity of water, various sources of the water. It vests in the regulatory authority of the Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) and the State Control Board (SPCB). Both are the bodies are the created the and statutory bodies in the Act 1974. And the Air Act 1981. What is the act aims the control and the prevent of the air pollution in India? And the main objectives. What are the main objectives of the Air Act 1981? To provide the prevention, control, and the abatement of the air pollution. To provide the establishment of the boards at the central and the state levels to implement the act, CPCB. And next one, the Environment Protection Act, Environment Act 1986. The act was passed under the Article 253, legislation giving the effect of the international agreements. This was the passed awake of the Bhopal gas tragedy in December 1984. This is the enacted the Achieve UN Conference, the Human Environment 1972 Stockholm Declaration. Eco-sensitive zones are ecologically fragile areas as the notified the MOFCC under. The statutory bodies of the EPA in 1986, Genetic Engineering Appropriate Committee and National Coastal Zone of the Management Authority. And next one is the Ozone Depleting Substances Rules 2000. The set of deadline is the facing the various ozone depleting substances and the regulating production, trade, important export and the product of the contains ozone depletion. Coastal Regulation Zone Notification 2018. The Energy Conservation Act 2001. Mainly, it was the enacted the step towards the improving energy efficiency and reducing the wastages. It specifies the energy consumption standards for the equipment and the appliances. So it prescribes the energy consumption norms and the standards for the consumers. It prescribes the energy conservation build codes for the commercial buildings. Biological Diversity Act 2002 is very important. It was the implemented give the effect of the Naga Protocol in the check biopiracy in the protect the biological diversity and local growers through the three the tier structure of the central and the state bodies of the local committees. The set of the National Biodiversity Authority (NBA) is State Biodiversity, the SSBS Biodiversity Management Committees. Scheduled Tribes and the Traditional Forest Dwellers Act 2006 (FRA). Next one is the National Green Tribunal Act 2010. It was established by the concern with Rio Summit 1992, provide the judicial and the administrative remedies for the victims in the pollutants of environmental damage. It also agrees with the Article 21, the right to health, environment, the citizens, the Constitution. National Green Tribunal is the dispose of the causes presented in the within the 6 months. There the appeals. NGT is the original jurisdiction of the matters related to the substitutional questions of the environment. NGT deals with the civil cases and the 7 Act, Water Pollution Act 1974, Water Cess Act 1974, Air Act 1977, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Environmental Protection Act 1986, Public Liability Insurance Act 1991, Biological Diversity 2002. Okay. Next one is the Water Cess Act 1977. This act was the passed to the help meet up the expense of the pollution control boards. The act creates the economic incentives for the pollution control board through the differential tax structure and requires the local authorities and the certain. Next one, the Air Act in 1981. Mainly, this legislation was the enhanced implement of the decision taken the Stockholm Conference held in the 1972, and 29th March 1981, the specialized the measures the air prevention, the control pollution, and the act enacted the tackle the pollution under the act of the industries. Next one, the Environmental Protection Act 1986, the Public Liability Insurance Act 1991. Mainly the Environmental Relief Fund is also is constituted. Uh, the position of the exposure during the Bhopal gas leak disaster in 1991, the Government of India enacted the Public Liability Insurance Act 1991. The legislation essentially provides the for payment of the compensation, and the bias of the strict the liability. These are the three important aspects of this act. If a person can prove that the some damage because of the any incident in any factor industry, interim compensation would be paid almost immediately to making the application of the district collector. Industrial insurance, these are the three factors. Next one, the National Environmental Tribunal 1995. The act provides the establishment of the National Environmental Tribunal. This is the Supreme Court as the several times recommended the constitution of the separate environmental courts. Next one, the National Environmental Appellate Authority Act 1997. The act was enacted on 26 March 1997. It provided the establishment of the National Environmental Appellate Authority to hear the appeals with the respect to the restriction of areas which any industries operation. Next one, the Forest Conservation Act 1980, the Indian Forest Act 19 27, the strictly speaking is the containing any specific provisions for the protection of the forest. And next one is the and reserve forests are declared, the government gets the special powers for the land and the may prohibit or the restrict certain activities in the area. Next one, the Insecticides Act in 1968. And next one, the Wildlife Protection Act, already we discussed the 1972. Some of the voluntary agents also they can use for the clear for the next one is the new act 1986. These are the environmental pollution acts. Next one, nation wetland development boards, the political administrative agencies, the legal aspects of the intellectual property right, IPR. EPC, the Central Pollution Control Board. What are the importance of the is that the Central Pollution Control Board is the statutory authority under the preview of the Minister of the Environment and Forest. Water Pollution Control Boards there the provide the initially under the initially under the Water Act 1974. Later, when the Air Prevention Control Pollution Act was enacted in 1981, there was the provision for the pollution control boards. Later, provision was made up for the constituting the single system pollution control boards, both the central as well as the state levels. There are one central pollution control board, and the many state pollution control boards may be the required. The central pollution control board discharge the function including the advise the central government of any matter relating of the improvement of the quality under the water and the preservation of the controlled and the abundant pollutions, planning and causing of the execution of the nationwide program for the prevention of control and abundant water and the air pollution, coordinating the activities the state pollution control boards, providing the technical assistance and the guidance to the state pollution control boards, the training of the person engaged in the programs the pollution control, organizing through the mass media comprehensive program for the prevention and the control pollution laid down the step. These are the state pollution control boards also number of state control boards, 29 state control boards also the legal aspects. These are the main Earth Summit 1992 is also known as the Rio Conference 1972 held the Rio de Janeiro, capital of the Brazil. Main these are the conference document is the adopted the Rio Declaration, a framework conservation on climate change, conservation of the biodiversity, principles on the forest protection and the and Agenda 21. These are the main important themes of the Earth Summit 1992, Rio's Earth Summit. Main important, what is the meaning of the Agenda 21? It comprehensive document is called Agenda 21, which includes the set of the priority action and basket of the means accomplishing this the priority action. Priorities are the achieving priorities are the achieving sustainable able to the combating the poverty, protecting women health, augment of urban water supply, addressing question of the solid waste management, urban pollution, encouraging of the efficient resource use, the protecting global regional resources. Main comprehensive document is called 21 agent, including the priority action of and basket of accomplishing the priority actions. These are the agenda 21. Okay, these are the environmental protection boards, different types of the. Okay, thank you.
నోరు మూసుకొని అన్ని పెట్టి తెచ్చుంటారు లేవాయన. పటా బెన్న బచ్చలకు ఎత్తుగా అది బచ్చలాకేనా చూసినావా? వేరేదేమన్నా ఎర్ర బచ్చలాకి మంచిది అంటారు. మనము కందిబ్యాలు ఎర్ర తింటాం కదా, తెల్లకంది మంచిది కాదు. ఏంటి అది పోకుంటే ఆసుపత్రి డాక్టర్ కావాలి. డాక్టర్ బాగుంటున్నారు. ఏమి అన్న చిన్నగా సంబరం చదువుతున్నాకే బుద్ధి లేదు.